Freedom is not free. Discover what it takes. It's time to tap and move forward.
Hello and welcome to Tap and Move Forward. I'm your host, Lynn Shelley. Today's episode is a personal one for me as it is an interview with the most impactful mentor and leader of my career, John Salazar, more commonly known as Sal. He was my first supervisor. I deployed with him, and he has followed me throughout my career. His mentorship and drive to see me succeed has had a monumental impact. Sal has had a dynamic career, starting out as a crew chief for the KC-135, becoming aircrew as a boom operator, then changing careers into aircrew flight equipment, where he attained the rank of chief and now is in a superintendent position. He is well known across the Utah Air National Guard for tenacity, service, and likability. For today's skill set challenge, one of the things Sal talks about is deserving what you put up with. This can come in many forms. In our relationships, we may allow someone to treat us poorly. As a leader, we may tolerate inferior work. Or it could be with ourselves, where we allow ourselves to slip into poor habits. Sal also talks about how opportunity doesn't discriminate. If you are not ready, it will pass you by all the same. We must prepare ourselves and our environment with high standards to be ready for new opportunity. This is today's challenge. Pick one place you may have been frustrated or complaining and find your own voice. This doesn't mean you have to be forceful or angry with your approach. Finding ways to hold a standard in a respectful way is more likely to get the results you are looking for. You can start with something like making a list of the places you are tolerating poor behavior in the categories talked about and pick one to strategize to make better. When I did this, I realized that I'm allowing myself to miss workouts and then expecting to still get the same results. Knowing this, I decided that if my day became too demanding for a full workout, I would find a way to at minimum sneak in a mini home workout before I go to bed and I have to break a sweat. Can't be like just a couple sit-ups and call it good. If you are up to the challenge, share with me what you are no longer going to tolerate on the Tap and Move Forward website or social media sites. Now the interview with John Salazar. Why did you join the military and how old were you?
I joined the military at 32 years old. It was after the Gulf War. My brother was in there, and I seen what it was to be a patriot, and I wanted to be part of it.
32 is quite a bit older.
Yes.
What did you do before that?
Before that, I worked at Sperry Univac Computer Systems across the street as a warehouse worker.
So what really inspired, you just wanted, that's a pretty dramatic shift at that point in your life.
Yes. I went to work one day. I was handed a layoff paper, and I didn't know exactly what to do. So for about a year, I just looked for jobs and moved from job to job that didn't do well. And I came across the Guard out there watching my brother, and that's what I wanted to do.
What was your first job in the military?
First job in the military was a crew chief on the KC-135E model.
How did you enjoy it?
I loved it. Once I was able to see what we were actually doing and get around the airplane, I knew I'd be here till the day they told me I couldn't come back.
How did you take to the military? Were there any big surprises for you?
No. I've had a lot of family in that have served, and the minute I put the uniform on, I knew it was for me.
Were there any shocking experiences in basic?
Just that I was so much older than everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure that played an interesting role.
No, it was none. The fitness, I've always been fit, so that was no problem to going through basic. Just missing the children was probably the biggest hurdle I had to face.
Because you had kids when
Yes.
you enlisted.
I had 3 children already. And I coached Little League Baseball, and having to leave my sons in the middle of baseball season was pretty tough.
How did your family deal with it?
It was a big change. My wife always being there and having to put her in charge of everything was very difficult at first for both of us.
You learned to adapt?
Yes. I think she had to adapt a whole lot more than I did because I had a set schedule. Being home, she's faced with more things than I was.
If you could give any advice to a newly enlisting member, what would it be?
Shoot for the stars. Get an education. Never look back. There's a reason we're in the Air Force and it says aim high, because the sky's the limit.
What do you mean when you tell them to aim high?
Aim high. Don't put no boundaries on yourself. You can do anything you want as long as you apply yourself. As long as you're ready, take advantage of all the schooling and the opportunities. There's just opportunities unlimitless here.
Is that what you would tell yourself if you could speak to yourself as an
Yes.
newly enlisting?
First thing I would tell myself before was get an education at a high school. When I was growing up, education wasn't important in my family. We were expected to get out of school, get a family, and go to work. And I grew up, that's just the way it was in our family. There was just no push for education. And it wasn't until I joined that I seen the importance of it. And I just would highly recommend for anybody, go to school.
Did you deploy during your time in the military?
Yes, I've deployed probably 30, 40 times.
It's crazy.
Yes. Well, as a flyer, we go anywhere, anytime. So the main thing was to be ready to go, and so we went everywhere all the time.
Are you talking about as a crew chief, or afterwards
Yes,
becoming
as a crew
boom,
chief.
boom operator?
As a crew chief, because we have to give the air crew a good plane.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of my mentoring and learning, was to get all this ready and be ready to go yourself.
And then afterwards, after being a crew chief, you did become a boom operator?
Yes.
Which I'm sure you deployed a lot
Yes.
that way too.
Yeah, the total deployments is total with everything, not just as a crew chief.
Right.
But yes, as a boom, we went all over.
How was it being air crew?
It's different. You're pampered.
You're pampered.
You're not pampered. You just, you go through a lot of training, and you're the reason that airplane's in the sky. So,
It's a different culture, though.
it's a different culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's just a different culture. Yes.
So that took a little bit getting used to?
No, because we got to know all these people as crew chiefs. And as a crew chief, when we'd see the air crew come to the plane, it was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. When we landed, they went to the room while we stood at the jet and fixed it for another 4 hours.
You wanted to leave with the air crew?
So we wanted to go with the air crew to the hotel.
So did you have to position yourself to be eligible for a boom operator position?
Yes, I had to put in my time for my initial enlistment. And I just kept bugging Chief Bose until finally he gave me an interview.
And on your first interview, did
No.
it? No.
It took me 3 attempts to finally land a boom spot.
Some dedication,
Yep.
determination.
Yes.
How have you dealt with big challenges or whatever your definition of failure is during your career?
Failure to me is good because it shows you're trying. If you succeed at everything you attempt, you're attempting the wrong things. And so you got to challenge yourself. You got to learn how to get up, first of all, because it's the first thing you learn as a child. When you fall down, you got to stand back up and learn how to walk. So it's always been for me is you got to adapt. You got to change. Change is so constant in our world these days. And like I tell my people, change. If you can accept change, you will survive. If you can create change, you will be successful. So you've got to learn to adapt, because opportunity does not discriminate. If you're not ready, it'll pass you by. So the one thing I've learned in my days here is always be ready. That's where the schooling part comes in.
So official schooling?
Yes, PME here in the Air Force, and also your personal life with the colleges. These days we got so many young people that come in with college degrees. It's just amazing what you see. I feel bad just having an associate's and being in so long. Didn't take advantage of the school.
What are your favorite ways of navigating stress or dealing with stress?
Exercise. Exercise is the key for me. Is just exercise. Having a bad day or I got something I really need to think on. A good long run is the way for me. It's alone time. Gives me time to think. Gives me time to surround myself with all the pros and cons. It's just alone time.
Do you feel like you had to position yourself and prepare yourself for the chief to become a chief?
Yes. Yes, it was such a big change. Before in life as a boom operator, I was happy with life. I wouldn't have gave it up for nothing. And so I let my PME and all that go because I didn't think I'd ever need it. And then once I changed careers, a big eye-opener for me was, hey, you better get ready because this is coming soon. And if you're not ready, it's going to go right on by. And then, it's better to try and fail than to look back and never tried.
Right.
Because it's regret of not trying something. It'll wear on you forever. Well, if I would have tried this, then you'll never know unless you try.
Are you saying that there were times that maybe you didn't feel confident that you were the ideal candidate, but you still put in or
Yes.
were working for it?
Yes. Because it was for many years, I went into aircrew flight equipment. I was learning a new job. It was frustrating. It's hard to learn a new job at an older age. And I just didn't think that was for me in there. For the first little bit, I was not happy about it. And so then I realized that the opportunity was there. So I knew Chief Davis would be leaving in 6 or 7 years. And so I really applied to learn everything I could in there in a very, very short time. And so.
Purposefully to position yourself
Yes.
for that chief position.
Yes.
And I lucked out that you were in there because you were my first NCOIC.
Well, good. But you were a good student, though.
Well,
so
most people come in ready and anxious and excited and empowered. And what I've seen is that a lot of them, when they get to that first duty station, how they're received can make all the difference in the world. And so you were more than happy to use that animation and that excitement and put it towards making the shop better and creating.
Thank you.
And that, I mean, it helped me too. And I didn't even realize how big of an impact you had really had on my career until later. And especially when I left the shop and lost you as my supervisor, it became really apparent how much of an impact that you had really had on my career. Like, you set the stage for my career, honestly.
Well, thank you.
Speaking of leadership, what are aspects of leadership that are really important to you?
I think the most important thing for me is to lead by example. Because I, in good faith, could never ask somebody to do something that I would not do first. And so to lead from the front is you've got to be that person that does the crappy jobs. I have no problem going out there and shoveling snow, picking up trash, parking cars. At most of the events, you'll never see me in the front because I'm always doing the crap jobs.
I saw you out there getting cards at the front gate.
Yeah. So it just, and that way I build the relationship with my airmen because they all know how I am. Mm-hmm. And they will know I will do anything for them. Anybody on the space, I think, knows that. And that's something I take very dear to heart, is the relationship with my airmen.
One thing I hear you saying, although you're not directly saying, is that the integrity that you live by has a massive impact on your leadership.
Yes.
Because you have to be able to follow through on your ideals and how much you care about people for people to believe that in you as a leader.
Yes.
And for you to get that kind of reputation, which you have that reputation, hands down.
Well, thanks. Yes, I try. That's important to me. That because I might be a chief, but when I take the uniform off, I'm supposed to be a friend also and a family member. And so it's all in one package.
What I'm hearing then is that it's important to you to connect with people as people and to not just be a supervisor.
Yes.
And seeing somebody as another uniform.
Yep. Because anytime somebody usually comes in and talks to me with any kind of troubles, first thing I'll do is I will take off my shirt because there's no rank in our conversation. I want to talk to somebody face to face. I'm that person that'll walk across the base to talk to somebody because I don't believe in discussing business over the phone. I'd like to see them face to face because I think that's important in building a relationship because then they know that I'm sincere about the things I'm asking them to do.
I've noticed this about you too, is that you take time to listen to people and that you'll do your best to then show them that you heard them, whether it's bringing somebody a coffee that you know that they like.
Yes.
or showing up with some version of that where you know that that's something that they...
Yes. Yeah. Like I say, it's part of the building a relationship. People can tell you they care all about you, but unless you can show them one little thing, even if it's just a little tiny thing, they'll say, wow, all right, he just ain't bull crapping. He does care.
I just remembered when I was getting ready to go on deployment. Or wait, maybe it was Guam.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting ready to leave, and you showed up with breakfast burritos
Yep.
and sent me on the plane with breakfast burritos.
Yep.
Just that did mean a lot to me, and just to feel taken care of.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Unless you feel like unless there's them little things that'll tell you that you care about it. Anybody can tell you they care about you all they want, but unless you show them some kind of little thing, even if it's minor, it goes a long, long way.
You also arranged a lot of shop meals together.
Yes.
Like potluck meals, so that everyone was eating together.
Yes.
I think that was that played a big role as well in getting us all together and building the camaraderie.
Yes. That's important to have family events, because the most important thing about your team is you got to make everybody believe that they're part of the team. Because once you have somebody that don't believe that they're part of the team starts to erode. Because your team's only as strong as your weakest person in the chain.
So I've heard you say before that you don't get what you deserve what you put up with.
Yes.
Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, a lot of times as a leader, as a parent, in overall life, we complain about the things, but on one hand we tolerate them, and then on the other hand we're going to complain. Like if you've got an employee that's constantly late, you're saying, okay, it's okay, don't do it again, and they just keep doing it. Well, I let it go, so I deserve it. It's hard to put up with that sometimes with your children when they keep doing the same thing. Clean your room. Well, okay, I'll get to it later. Okay, it's okay. And then it never gets done, so I deserve everything I tolerate.
I think it's such an important lesson.
Yeah.
in multiple different avenues, in relationships, whatever that may be, like whether directly or indirectly, we teach people how to treat us. Yes.
And that's why I've always tried to live by the rule. I treat everybody the way I like to be treated. A lot of people say, you have to earn respect. And I always live by that, but I try to put the respect out there and expect it back. If it comes back, fine. If not, I've done my part. So.
What do you consider your greatest military accomplishment, and why?
My greatest military accomplishment was learning to survive without my wings. Your wings are such a great accomplishment that you can get in the military. And when I changed careers, losing that aspect of my life was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It's very difficult to explain to somebody why you don't do that no more, because it's the most sought after job in the Air Force for enlisted ranks. And to be able to overcome that and survive, and not survive, but still be successful down the road was a very, very big challenge. My biggest accomplishment was getting the wings, but my greatest accomplishment was learning to survive without them.
So what happened? Did you purposefully choose?
Just career change, more time at home. You know, being an air crew requires a great deal of traveling.
Yeah.
And it was putting a lot of stress on my family. And my wife, it's hard raising children alone. And it was very demanding on her. And I just needed a career change. And that's also part of the plan on the road I chose to prepare myself to be a chief one day. Because I knew I would never get it in the flying section. And so to make that move to another section is where the road took me.
So it wasn't a particularly exciting movement,
No.
but it suited the goal.
Yes. Yes. It was just a step in the road. And I'm very thankful that it happened the way it did. I wasn't happy at the time, but now I can see it was a blessing from above. And I thank the Lord every day for being so blessed.
When you did transition over, did you just really settle into that mindset? Because I've heard you talk about this a lot, just doing your best,
Yes.
No matter what you're doing. Just focus on being your best, whatever it is.
Yes. And that's the way I looked at it. I was like, if I'm going to be here, I need to do the best I can be. So anytime the school opportunities came out, I jumped on them. And I just wanted to absorb everything and learn everything I could. Like I've told my airmen before, it don't matter if you're emptying the toilets on the airplane or flying the airplane. Whatever you do, be the best at it, and you will succeed in life.
What behaviors or skill sets have you learned in the military that follow you or that have most impacted you in your life?
Patience. I had to learn patience. Is probably the most important thing, because I had to learn that everybody's not a go-getter or is like me.
Right.
It's when I'd go work somewhere and I expect everybody to be the same way as me, and it took a little bit to step back and learn some patience on the people that were not like me, and learn everybody's different. The skill sets, communication is a big one, and just school, education.
Are there any stories that you really like to tell about your career?
Yes. One time I was deployed to Texas, and I was out in front of the hotel getting ready to go for a run.
I love this story.
This gentleman pulls up in front of the hotel, and he's like, "Hey, take my bags up to my room." I was like, "Well, okay," because that's just the way I am. So I took the bags up to his room. He gave me $10. So I gave it back, but it was just funny because he thought I was one of the hotel workers, even though I was in gym clothes. That's my funniest story.
Didn't when you refused the money, didn't they say something about, wow, they have really great help here?
Yeah, he sure did.
It's amazing the help they have here.
That was the funniest thing I've ever had.
It's a great story. I think 99.9% of people would say, I can't help you with your bag. Maybe ask the help. I'm on my run.
Or be offended.
But or be offended.
Yeah.
But the random chance that they came across you and you're just like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
I'm trying to think now if there's more stories. I'm surprised that I haven't gotten any of your one-liner jokes in here.
I'm trying to be serious, which is very difficult.
How do you respond when people tell you thank you for your service?
That's easy. I tell them thank you for your support, because without your support, this would be very difficult. Because I've had relatives that were in Vietnam that never got acknowledgement or thank you. And when I was a child, all I heard from them was never join the military, because they treat you like dogs. But then I also had uncles when World War II in Korea that encouraged us to join, because they told me it would make a man out of you. So the conflict right there with the uncles telling you and the cousins telling you. So it was like, you didn't know what to do as a child. But I strictly tell them thank you for your support.
I think it's important. Especially with the younger generation, just because everything they've heard about Vietnam is all secondhand, and they don't necessarily understand that it was a completely different climate, the way that culturally it was a different climate. And a lot of what they did, they were really pioneers that created a pathway for us to enjoy the military as it is now, and with the support that we do now.
Yes, it's 180 degrees. That's why I'm so involved in the honor flights, because it's just so touching to me to help them go back and see the monuments they built. You see them cry like little kids when they come back. And we all cry when we send them off. Yes, to fly them to DC free of charge. They get a guardian to go with them. It's usually a family member. And on some of these, we've had World War II veterans, 100 years old. And it's an awesome thing to see. I hope one day they'll be flying me back to see the monuments I built one day.
I've really enjoyed being involved when I have as well.
Yeah.
It's an emotional experience for sure. So of all of the service work you've done inside of the military, outside of the military, what are some of your more memorable experience or meaningful experiences?
Most meaningful are serving lunch at the shelters, just because I believe it's important to never forget where you came from and support your communities outside of here. And it's just such a wonderful thing we do for the homeless and the needy. And it gives you a good feeling inside that you're doing your part to help, which is another one of my most memorable stories. Is we were serving lunch, me and Ricky, and this lady dropped her tray. I went over to pick up her tray, and she told me to F off and get back, and then she threw her orange at me and hit the guy standing next to me.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'll never forget that one, but I do believe in giving back to the community.
That's not exactly the meaningful story I was hoping you would share.
All right, meaningful. My most meaningful thing that I just realized is we were doing an honor flight one time, and I noticed a lady with a small child. Not small, 10 or 11. I went up and started talking to him, and I told him about our airplanes because we were all in our service dress, and he was like really excited. And I invited him over to come and see the plane. And then after his mom came over with him, then I come to find out that his father had recently been killed he fell down and hit his head in the camper. He was an Army linguist, and he was really struggling with his loss. And we were able to sit down and talk. He spent the day here with me. And I'm honored to say that we are still friends, and his picture's right there on my wall that he drew for me of SpongeBob.
That's from him?
Yes.
Wow.
And I think the most special part is he wrote a letter to, I think he was writing a letter to his father. And his mom sent it to me, and in there he mentioned that what a big impact I'd had on his life. And he was so thankful that I came into his life to help him through to that time. That's my most meaningful.
I like it. I have to say that one of the most meaningful experiences from my military career you had a big impact on. And that was when, because we were both deployed in Qatar at the same time, and they were coming up with this POW MIA 24-hour run where the flag stays moving for 24 hours. That there's always somebody carrying it. And at the time, someone who's still a good friend, but a guy that I was dating, his great uncle, I think it was, had been recently discovered. He was KIA, but had been lost MIA for a number of decades.
In New Guinea.
Yeah, you remember. So he had just recently been found, and I just had some curiosity about if we could somehow honor that great uncle through the what they were already doing. And you really helped work that. I mean, I think I just said it as a random pondering, but you had the connections and the capability to talk to people and to find people and to make it happen so that not only was the flag dedicated to the family, but you had me be the first person to carry the flag. And then we had the flag flown on a couple of different aircraft, and I got all of these awards that were put together just to talk about how amazing this flag was. And I wish that you could have been there to give that to the family.
Well, I knew how important it was to you, because I could see the passion in your eyes about it. And that being important to you was important to me. And so it was just the right thing to do without even thinking that if we were going to do this, I wanted to go all the way and make it really special. And we did.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The ceremony they did there in the deed was, I'll never forget that.
I won't either. It was incredible, and I really wish you could have been there when I presented the flag to the family, because that was
Well, we can go visit them one
special.
day. So you're still friends, right?
He's still friend, yeah.
Okay. You can have him come out here. I'm good with that.
Oh, I'll have to reach out.
Yeah.
So have you thought about if you could give the new enlistees one skill set or superpower to help them in their career, what would it be?
Superpower.
You know what I would say? Just knowing you. I would say an indomitable spirit.
Yeah.
Because that's in general, that's what if I would assess my vision or view of what I've seen in your career, that's really what propelled you forward. That no matter what came up, you were still pushing forward, you still had a bigger vision, and you talking about how you figured other people were just like you, even though they weren't.
Yeah.
I think that's really the piece that was unique to you, and that you never really questioned. Your capacity and willingness to keep going, and just that indomitable spirit.
Yes, I agree. You got to have that drive in life. There's no, like I've always told you before, the view don't change from second place, from the back of the pack. You got to get out and lead. No matter what life throws at you, you've got to be able to adapt and move forward and have that spirit to go. You must be able to change on a moment's notice, because, like I say, change is all around us. But you've got to be able to have that drive and the compassion for life in general, not just the military, but for life, and the rest follows.
I love what you're saying, because I think all too often people consider that drive, that spirit, to be something you have or you don't have. But what I hear you just explaining is that you have to challenge yourself in order to find it or to create it for yourself.
Yes. Like I say, if you succeed at everything you try, you're trying the wrong stuff. You've got to set your goals high. Failure is good. Failure is very healthy. Just don't give up. Because too many times I see people try, fail, and give up and say, well, I can't do it. I try to eliminate I out of my vocabulary and change it to we, because we are a team.
Well, I feel weird using your full name because you're technically a civilian on the podcast. But I guess I'll just say Sal.
That's good. That's good.
I really appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences and insights and imparting that or giving back to the rising ranks.
Thank you, Lynn.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and found a new mindset to help you excel. To read Sal's full bio, to see some pictures, or to comment on what you learned, please visit www.tamfpodcast.com/SAL.